Episode 4 of Season 3 of Ted Lasso has just been released, and it's safe to say that it certainly lived up to its title of Big Week. With the fixture everybody was anticipating, Ted's Richmond met Nate's West Ham, and we saw the pair meet where emotions were at the highest that we'd seen all season. With it being a personal battle for many characters in the show, a business battle, and also one that all of the teammates felt passionate about, let's recap, break down, and explain all that there was to take away from this most recent episode. So let's get into it. Here is Ted Lasso Season 3 Episode 4 Ending Explained. Just to let you know, this video will contain spoilers. As we embarked onto the ending of the episode, we saw that the team was mourning the loss to West Ham, but it wasn't something that Ted let get the better of him. Instead, he was focused on something that was playing on his mind from the very moment that the episode started, the idea that he's a mess, something which we saw him mention to every single person that mattered to him in the show, Rebecca, Roy, and Coach Beard. However, with them saying that he was, we saw him address the reason as to why he felt as though he was acting like a mess right at the end. The confliction in his mind, and also the fact that he was letting issues that were bothering him around Dr. Jacobs and Michelle fester up inside of him. Ted is alone. He's mourning the past life that he had and the family that he had. And we've seen how well Ted bounces off of people when he's around others, so being around people and especially his family is a huge part of his life that he's missing. Hence why the final scene held such importance. Ted was staying in the UK and leaving his son Henry because he wanted to stay with the team. But we saw that things across the other side of the Atlantic were impacting him far more than a catastrophic result where his team was humiliated. With Ted saying that he loved his family no matter what form it was, and saying that he and Michelle would always be connected some way due to Henry, whilst also addressing the hurt that he felt by the Dr. Jacobs relationship that his ex-wife was in, it showed a turning point for Ted, and the fact that he was prepared to open up. With the large sigh being emitted right at the end, it showed us that it was weighing on his mind a lot, and he was now relieved after letting it out. With the song Don't Think Twice, It's Alright being played after Ted opened his heart and the episode finished, it also supported the idea that he just had to let it out without thinking about it, because it was going to be okay. Let's break the rest of the video down by the main characters. Ted. Ted had a really interesting journey in this episode. As I mentioned before, there was the biggest game of the season approaching him, but he wasn't thinking about it that much. He had bigger things to think about, which meant that we saw him not really delving into the game that much. Instead, all of the conversation around Nate, his betrayal, and the way that he acted when he left the club was front and center, but Ted was acting as if he wasn't hurt, despite the fact that he clearly was. There was a big build-up to the both of them meeting, and we saw Ted acting amicable and actually wanting to speak with Nate, but Rupert interfering meant that he couldn't. Ted's 5-star Uber rating was symbolic of the personality that he has and that he's an individual that is kind, friendly, and won't aim to hold on to anything. Hence why we saw him going in for the handshake on multiple occasions, and also speaking with Nate in the elevator. Ted lost somebody big in his life, which was also supported by the fact that he still has the photo of Nate in his home front and center, so I imagine we will see the pair repairing their relationship as time goes on, especially seeing as though Nate wanted to. Nate was back on our screens with a full involvement for the first time in 2 episodes, and it was really good to have him back. We all thought that Nate was somebody who didn't regret the way that he acted, and was this awful individual down to his core. But we saw that he's just extremely awkward over what happened, and is being played by his puppeteer Rupert to act in a certain way. Right at the start of the episode, we saw Nate knock the model version of Ted over to the ground and laugh. But after a moment, he picked him up and placed him down delicately to where he belonged. This to me showed that he still cared about Ted, and he didn't want to hurt him. And this was also further supported when we saw that he wanted to apologize to Ted in the elevator before Rupert got involved, and also when he ran to Ted's coach before he left, as it was brought to his attention that he didn't shake his hand after the game, a moment which I thought was out of spite, but it turned out it was just an honest mistake. However, with him not being able to speak with Ted, it's going to be something that's most likely going to be playing on his mind, especially with the journalist mentioning it in the post-match interview, so it's going to be out there for the world to see. Nate is in a world where he's out of his depth, as we saw when he went to the bar and was amazed by somebody who he called famous, and also when he was trying to flex his own fame. He doesn't quite know the balance, and it's something that's definitely getting the better of him. This episode was important for the character Nate because it showed us that he did have regrets that were buried within him surrounding the way that he left. And with him now seeing Ted for the first time since he left, the hardest part is done. So I feel it's going to make it easier for them to be able to strike up a conversation to repair things in the future. Rebecca. This week's fixture was something that was important to Rebecca on a personal level because she wanted to get one over on Rupert. However, obviously, it didn't go the way that she wanted it to. I think we're going to see real growth within Rebecca throughout this season. As Ted said, she's already won by being rid of him, and I think she's going to come to the realization about that and stop caring about getting one over on him. Well, maybe after she reveals to Bex that Rupert is cheating on her. Rebecca and Bex seem to get on okay, all things considering, so I feel we will see Rebecca look out for her, because she herself knows what it's like to be on the other side of Rupert when he's off fumbling around with people. Keeley. Keeley had quite a large involvement within this episode as we saw that she had her investor and boss coming to watch the West Ham game. This was Jack Danvers, an individual who everybody thought was a man but was in fact a woman as they'd never met before. Jack Danvers was quite an interesting character. She didn't say that much, but there were a lot of glances at Keeley in the background that kept occurring. So I do wonder what that was all about and if it means that a different path or other opportunities are to come for Keeley. She was acting completely different to her CFO, who was in awe of her, so I'm intrigued to see what comes of that. Her relationship with Sandy is something that may take a bit of a turn, with Keeley having to put her boss hat on. Shandy's lack of professionalism is something that could potentially cause Keeley's business to unravel and lose clients, but it hasn't come to that yet. There was a moment where Keeley was reflecting on Jamie and essentially saying how he wasn't the person that he used to be, which showed that there was a clear understanding that Jamie has actually grown as an individual. I don't think this meant anything in terms of her wanting to be with him, as I feel her heart is still solely set on Roy, despite the fact that we didn't see anything about that this week, but I'm sure we will in the future. Overall review. I thought this was a really good episode of the season, maybe the best so far. We got some real deep moments. Game time, we saw the emotion that was on the pitch which caused the team to crumble, and we saw all that was important to all of the characters, with Roy and Jamie looking as though they're actually getting on, which is nice to see, and with Jamie being up and ready to train when compared to the start of the episode, it shows that he does truly want to be better than Zava, with the commentators saying that they wondered if Zava regretted joining a team that was as shambolic as how Richmond performed. I wonder if this is alluding to the fact that he could potentially end up leaving, as he's rarely in any footage for the trailer for the season. So I guess we'll just have to wait and see. With Richmond not getting the 3 points that they needed to go top, I wonder if that performance and several red cards, meaning they'll have a few players out, will be the unraveling of their current success. I'm looking forward to seeing what the next episode is going to bring. So, there you have it. Ted Lasso Season 3 Episode 4 Ending Explained. If you want to see more videos such as Endings Explained, theories and predictions, and character breakdowns, then click on the I button. Or alternatively, you can head over to my channel where you'll find them all. If you'd like to give me a show or movie that you'd like me to review, then head over to my Twitter, @brainpilot_, and tweet me what show or movie you'd like me to review next. And finally, if you'd like to see what I rate the latest movies that don't quite make the cut to getting a dedicated video, then head over to my Letterboxd profile. It's where I rate the latest releases in real time. What did you think of this episode? Leave a comment down below, and don't forget to subscribe. I'll see you next time.